Welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of Tech Talk Thursday. My guest this week is Walt Custer. After 40 years in the industry, the IPC Hall of Famer is retiring. I discussed his life, his work, and the legacy he will be leaving his son John to continue at Custer Consulting. A fascinating and interesting story. Now let's meet Walt Custer. So, Walt, thank you for joining us today. I believe that you've announced your retirement at the end of this month, so congratulations on your retirement. But what I really want to focus on today is the huge legacy you've left behind and the contribution you've made to the electronics manufacturing industry. Let's get started first, I think, with the very beginning. You were a war baby, literally born back in 1943, is that correct?
42.
42, right. Okay, so these must have been difficult times, I guess, in some ways.
No, they weren't. First of all, I don't remember them.
Right.
You know, I don't. My earliest real memories are in the later 40s of any consequence. By then, the war was over or winding down dramatically. So, and my father was not in the war and things. So, it was not like England where we were getting strafed by buzz bombs or something like that. We were safe.
So it wasn't something that directly impacted you?
No, it had. I have no memory of it.
So where did you grow up?
I was born in New Jersey, and lived there until I was 12 or 13 years old, and then my father got transferred to Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. We lived in, and then came back to New Jersey again ultimately for college, and then after college to graduate school in Indiana. So I've moved around a little bit.
So what were your early years like at college?
Well, I did a strange thing. I eloped when I was 18. And so college for me was working from midnight to late in the morning in a chemical company and then going to school in the daytime. So it was not a particularly easy life. But the good thing is we got John as part of the deal. So, we have a good son, but the college years, I learned a lot, but they were not particularly easy. And when I graduated from college, I went to graduate school, and graduate school in the U.S., you would get a stipend as a teaching assistantship. So all of a sudden I went from having to work all night and go to school all day to actually just having one normal life.
So life became a lot easier once you get into graduate school. Yeah. Okay.
And then so my teenage marriage disintegrated, and ultimately, when I was in graduate school, I met Nancy, my current wife of 50 years. So life got a lot better. Wonderful,
wonderful. Well, Nancy's certainly a wonderful woman. So you graduated with a BA in chemistry. In which college was that at?
Fairleigh Dickinson University. It's a private college in New Jersey, and its claim to fame for me was it was very close to the chemical industry, and I could work 2 blocks away from where school was, so at least the thing all integrated together. Then for graduate school, I went to Purdue, which is in West Lafayette, Indiana, which is a very big university.
It's a very, very good school, actually. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't academically on the top of the heap, but it suited my needs. I had a job. I could go to college, and the whole thing worked together, and I could support a family.
Okay. So from there, you got your first entry into the industry, working as a chemist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the year that I graduated from Purdue was a downturn in the economy. So there were very few jobs out there. At a big university, all the companies would come in to do interviews, but that year it all dried up. So because I had experience working in the industry, I got a job when most people didn't. So I got a job with a chemical company that made me a salesman for bulk organic chemicals, solvents and monomers and that sort of thing, and trained in New York City and then got sent to California for my
You
first
started
sales.
out on the bench, did you not, though, when you first went into Dynacam?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't in the bench in Celanese where I worked before that. When I went, then when I was in California, after a couple of years, Celanese transferred me back to New York City to Manhattan to work, and I didn't want to do that. I gave it 2 weeks and quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been calling on a number of companies on California, Dynacam being one of them, and I basically talked myself into a job. And initially, I started in a organic synthesis lab, and then formulating UV curable inks. And then I became a product manager, and so on and so forth. I ended up being a regional manager and director of marketing, and then vice president of marketing and sales.
Right, interesting. Yeah, well, that's going into quite an industry, the UV curable inks. So you were with, Dynacam, which became Thiacol, which became Morton Thiacol, which became Morton International for a long time. How many years did you spend with?
Well, I started there in '73 and ended in '99. So what's that?
What's 20?
27 years, 28 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. That's a long time.
Well,
So what then prompted the move into starting a consulting business?
Well, I was doing some of that work. First of all, what prompted it was I was Morton International, which was the parent of the company I worked for, was sold to Roman Haas in 1999. So at that point, the headquarters would have moved from California, which I enjoyed, to either Philadelphia or Marble and Mass, which I wasn't looking forward to. So I had got a golden handshake, a year's salary, and some other things, and a consulting contract. So I was able to leave. So I started this consulting business, with a little bit of firm footing. But what I had been doing as part of my job at Morton International as vice president of marketing sales was trying to understand the business cycles in the industry and help forecast our manufacturing and people hiring and that sort of thing, because this industry is highly cyclical and we always missed it. We'd be expanding at the peak of the business cycle and when we should have been, being careful and pulling in our horns a little bit so we didn't over inventory or over hire.
Yeah.
So I had been doing that internally, and then I had been giving this information to our customers, Morton's customers, just to help the industry. I was active in the IPC TMRC and spoke on these conditions and things, that sort of thing. So I had been doing that ahead of time. So when I exited, I had basically a built-in group of customers that they'd been getting this free from Morton, and I approached them with would they like to buy this information on a subscription basis, and a number of them quickly subscribed, and we had a business.
Right. Interesting. So you mentioned that you did some work on the IPC TMRC. You continued that for quite a while.
Well, yeah. Ultimately, I got the President's Award and the Hall of Fame Award from the IPC.
Yeah.
And it was centered on the kind of stuff I just described, where other people were doing things on a technology bent. My focus was on market conditions and business conditions and forecasting and that sort of thing. And so it had a place in the TMRC meetings.
Right. So over the years, Walt, you have traveled the world incessantly, presented at many conferences around the world, and literally grown the Custer Consulting business to quite a height. Where is it now, and what sort of level of services are you offering?
Well, I think we'll bring John in a little bit, but we have two basic product lines. We have 3 new services on the industry, which John has developed.
Mm-hmm.
One on the electronics industry, one on solar photovoltaic, and one on the automotive. And then we have a product we call Business Outlook, which is our basically industry data and companion graphs that we sell on a subscription basis. So it's a twofold business, and many of the customers buy both.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Great. Well, you mentioned John there, and I know he's sitting out there waiting in the green room. So, John, do you want to join us now?
Absolutely.
There he is. So, John, yeah, you've been working with your dad now for a number of years on the business. Tell us a little bit about some of these other products that you brought on and where you saw that market.
Well, I think what I look at our niche as being very timely. So we brought on the daily news and expanded that to automotive electronics manufacturing.
Yeah.
And same with the solar, it was all on the electronic manufacturing side of it. So we were looking at inverters, anything that was doing with electronic manufacturing. So we just kind of expanded the scope of electronic industry equipment into some other sectors. And we find on the business outlook side is the quantitative side of taking, just looking at a little different angle from information to actually having the data, the numbers, the charts and graphs to kind of support what's going on and being able to really see what's coming down the pipeline and look back behind to understand how business is unfolding, where the opportunities are.
Right. I mean, the solar industry over the years has changed quite a bit. I mean, it started out with quite a bit of business over here in the West, but it pretty much ended up like the PCB industry, largely in China. Do you have is that where a lot of your customers are, or your customers are Western customers? What does the customer profile look like?
For the solar industry?
Yeah.
It is, I would say it is a lot of our customers are existing ones, even, in the EMS industry, mm-hmm. or even in the PCB industry that kind of moved over and saw that as an opportunity about 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So coming back to the consultancy business, your father's left one heck of a legacy there. What are your plans taking it forward?
Well, first off is to preserve his legacy. So, I really feel very fortunate to have that foundation. And so when I look at that, that's really the core, is to make sure that's solid. Mm-hmm. And that will always be, to me, the roadmap that we stay on. So when I look at that, and it's basically to make sure we understand those, it's the business cycles, but now we're kind of moving a little bit more into adding another layer of the economic cycles. So we kind of really can understand that, not a stairway to heaven, but how business actually does swing back and forth. And there's a lot of factors, just like COVID, that you just can't predict. And how do you move forward and, make quick decisions?
Yeah. Now, obviously, Walt put a huge amount of physical work into actually working in the business. That's going to leave a huge void, I'm sure. Are you taking on more people to help you cope with that?
Well, recently we hired a guy named Gary Evans that he didn't just come from Wall Street. He's an economist. Mm-hmm. So he's really adding another layer to things, and it's helpful because he can see from a monetary place, from political stances, he really kind of has a very good understanding of how that influences industries, especially ours. So that's one of a recent thing that we just did maybe a month or two ago.
Okay, excellent. Well, we certainly wish you every success with the future of Custer Consulting.
Can I make a comment too? That I pledged to John that I will, stay available as needed, probably out through the end of the year, so to ensure a smooth transition, because really the business is fairly complex. Maybe it doesn't appear that on the surface, but when you get into all our forecasting models and things like that, they're not obvious to the most casual observer. So I'm pledged to him that I'll stay with him, not on paper, but by phone as needed, to ensure an orderly transition.
Yeah, excellent. So, Walt, coming back to you then, what are your plans for retirement? I mean, I know that
it's going to be tough. It's letting go is not easy. We have hobbies. I have a good wife I'm very lucky, and I've had some physical issues my walking isn't the best these days and things like that. So some of the things I would like to do aren't as easy to do anymore. One of our big hobbies has been wildlife photography.
Yeah.
I've been to Africa 7 times and that sort of thing, chasing animals around in the bush. And I really enjoy that. I don't know how much I'll be able to do.
Mhm.
Also, international travel now is not as easy as it used to be with COVID and the like. So,
Mhm.
but
One
that's
of the
one
other
thing.
areas that you were very strong on was genealogy.
Yeah, I am, but not as much as I was. It's a sad thing. In the 80s and 90s, I really traced our family history. My father's family was from the Orkney Islands of Scotland. The name Custer was originally Custer, and it's a name of a farm in the Orkneys. So basically, my real name is Walt Cowpasture, but I did do that, and I did it with a passion. But then I tapered off in the mid 1990s, partially because of business demands, and
Right.
and then I had a very active website on that, and some yo-yo hacked it. Really made a mess of it, and I've
Really?
never been able to put it back together again. And that may be one of the things I do in my retirement, but it's not on the top of my list of things to do right now.
Right. Right.
I think the things on the top of my list is to improve my health and spend time with my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we certainly wish you, the very best with your health, and we hope that you have a very long and happy retirement. So all the best, Walt, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Trevor.
Try first. Don't just say, I can't. Try and find a way to do it.
We will exceed your expectations.
Nice to meet you. We are Omron.
Global SMT and Packaging opens the windows of the world to bring you the latest news and technologies from Munich, from Bangalore, from Shanghai, from San Diego.